Our next recipient, Garfield Beckstead, says some of his friends and relatives might have thought he'd lost touch with reality when he quit a lucrative consulting job with a multinational firm and went off to live on an island off the coast of Florida. Did I mention he was about to be named a partner when he decided to move to Useppa Island, a place with no power, no running water, that had been abandoned by its previous owner? Now you know why people thought of Gar as an eccentric, to use his word. Nuts is another description he believes people used. But where others saw a deserted island overrun by jungle, Gar saw potential. The place had once been an elite vacation spot for the rich and powerful. The Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, and Rothschilds had all stayed there. Some of the old buildings still stood, although barely, as the jungle had started its own recycling program. So he and his wife, Sanaya, began a life of hard labor on Useppa Island in 1976, slowly bringing it back to its former glory. During the first 3 years, Gar and Sanaya had 2 children. They actually had to haul fresh water from the mainland in order to bathe the children. It was, as Gar says, almost like Wild West homesteading. Slowly, they established a power and water supply, rebuilt the dock, and opened a small marina. Gar decided to develop home sites on the island and run it as a private club. By the end of 5 years, there were more than 500 members and 60 property owners. Useppa Island had come back to life thanks to the hard work of Gar and Sanaya. But the effort never seemed overwhelming for Gar. If anything, he says he often could not believe how much fun he was having. The hard work and entrepreneurial spirit involved was much more in line with the Emerson, Manitoba boy who grew up to play hockey at UND while earning an engineering degree. He says, quote, "Cutting jungle, building buildings, making repairs, painting, fishing, and running boats around was more who I was than a buttoned-up, hat-wearing consultant," end quote. Gar would eventually build another island resort as well, Palm Island Resort, and invest in other development in Florida. Gar, for proving that an eccentric idea can become reality, for your entrepreneurial spirit, and for your success as a developer. You are truly deserving of this recognition. Please come forward and accept your Sioux Award.
They didn't let me use the teleprompter, so I've got to read from these notes. They didn't let me use the teleprompter, Mr. President. Thank you, Deanna, for that wonderful set of comments. Thank you. Mr. President, members of the Foundation Board, my fellow alumni, and my dear friends and family, thank you for this wonderful and totally unexpected honor. I am deeply moved and humbled by your thinking me worthy of receiving the prestigious Sioux Award. I'm even more honored when I realize the accomplishments of my fellow recipients. Congratulations to them. Particularly Mark Chipman, 2 Manitoba boys in one night. Can you believe it? If Manitoba had a national anthem, we'd be doing a 2-step up here. It's been a long journey. Tom Clifford, the Dean of Men and friend of all young hockey players, must be looking down right now and scratching his head in wonder. Coach Bob May down in Minneapolis must be doing some serious navel gazing. My old engineering professors, wherever they may be, must still be wondering just how I got that engineering degree. And my dear mother and father, Elsie and Donald, must be looking down and gently smiling. I wish I could stand here and tell you that I came to UND and became a famous hockey player. I can't. I wish I could tell you that I became a billionaire. I can't. I wish I could tell you that I've become the greatest contributor to humanitarian and charitable causes. I cannot. But what I can tell you is that I have lived an exciting, look at the pictures, adventurous and full life, that I have a wonderful and fulfilling family and a group of close friends that have been along with me on this entire journey. And I can tell you that I've always appreciated and believed in and carried with me the Midwest core values and principles that I received here at the University of North Dakota. By late 1956, things were looking pretty bleak for a young Manitoba boy in Emerson. I had been at odds with what I wanted to do with my life. I'd gone up to northern Manitoba and I was working 6,000 feet underground in a hard rock gold mine when I was fired because I was underage. I was only 17 years old. I just didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Then the Barrie, Ontario Flyers, the Class A farm team for the Boston Bruins, who had scouted me for a few years, sent my father a letter and offered me $500 a month and board and room to come to Barrie, Ontario and play hockey. At the same time, a friend of my father's, Mr. Wallin, and Julia, it's nice to have you here tonight. contacted Fido Perper, the athletic director here at the university, and I was offered a scholarship to come and play hockey. I had a decision to make, a fork in the road. I chose education, one of the best decisions of my life. I climbed in my 1938 antique Plymouth through a trunk in the back and headed for Grand Forks, North Dakota, a place I'd never been before. The next few weeks were pretty eventful. I arrived in a blizzard in the middle of January 1957. The room, part of my scholarship, was located in the North Stadium, the turret, in the old football stadium, a cold and icy spot. My roommates were the famous Ralph Trucker Linden, Bart Larson, and Reg Morelli. My job was bussing tables at the Beta Theta Pi fraternity house. And the rink, the famous barn, was a delightful minus 25 degrees on a continuous basis. This is the exact time in my life I came to a firm conclusion that if I was ever able to find and live in a warmer climate, I was definitely going to do that. I enrolled in the School of Engineering, specifically in the School of Mines, and began the slow and difficult process of balancing hockey practice, hockey games, with physics and chemistry labs. At this point, I was going to tell you some stories about my 5 years in engineering school here, but I'm a hockey player. And as I reviewed those stories, they were all too risque, even for a mature audience like this. So 5 years later, I graduated, and what a journey it's been. I spent 7 years with the AT&T company in New York City, in Cleveland, Ohio, and after an MBA, another 7 years with the global international consulting firm of McKinsey & Company, with most of that time spent living and working in Japan, and then subsequently in Scandinavia. But by the mid-1970s, I realized that something was missing. I knew I wanted to be a true entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to build something and be involved from scratch with something that belonged to me and not to other people. I found the answer to that dream and that wish with two true islands off the coast of South Florida, Useppa Island and Palm Island. And yes, these are real islands with no bridges, no cars, and relatively few people. The story of how one finds the skill to buy, renovate, and operate true islands without any cash can be found in several books and is far too complicated and too much fun to go into detail here. Enough said that these two true islands fulfilled my entrepreneurial dream and brought me here tonight. As I traveled and worked around the corporate world, I would always find myself at the ubiquitous cocktail party and forced to engage in the cocktail chatter involved there. And of course, the favorite cocktail question is, where did you graduate from? My response would be, the University of North Dakota. At that response, the person would immediately and invariably respond with a surprised look and articulate the word, oh, and then move on to somebody else more interesting to talk to. I decided my new response would be, I graduated from University. The person would then say, I haven't heard of that. I said, sure you have. The person would then ask, where's that? And I would tell them it was in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and it was the University of North Dakota. And the person would say, oh. Then I would say, smile nicely and say, I knew you recognized. I said that we were going to. Now that you people and folks in the state of North Dakota are gathering up all the money in the world, there were more Chevrolet Corvettes bought in the state of North Dakota last year than in any other state in the Union. And there are 2,000 new millionaires in the state of North Dakota during the last calendar year. Anyway, as you've gained a reputation as being a pretty well-run place, I have reverted to answering the proverbial cocktail question with, proudly, I graduated from the University of North Dakota, and almost everybody knows where that is now. And where else but here in the Red River Valley would a letter sweater with my name embroidered on the inside and dearly loved by me, awarded to me in the year 1958, gone missing within a year, be returned in pristine condition 54 years later by our hockey coach, Dave Haxtell, and his wife, Erin, and Barbara Williams. Thank you, Barbara, for taking care of that for me for 54 years. You can see it if you go down to the sports bar here in the Canada Inn. You can see it. It's on display outside in front of it. Where else but in Grand Forks, where folks still believe. Am I going on too long here? Am I going on too long here? Where folks still believe that the fundamental values of honesty, integrity, hard work, perseverance, and finding a little oil can create a great deal of good luck and success. UND made everything possible for me. It provided the base of knowledge and the disciplined thought, and allowed this small town boy to dream and realize that anything is possible. I am proud of the university, and I'm proud of my heritage here in the Red River Valley. This award will serve to motivate Sinai and I to do a lot more in the future for the betterment of the university than we've been able to do in the past. For many years, I took our university for granted. I took my time here for granted. I guess I was similar to many alumni. I graduated, taking with me all the discipline, thought, sound values, and opportunities, and promptly forgot where they came from. Last year, I made a fundamental decision to start the process of giving back to the university that provided this space. I would hope that those of you alumni who are here tonight, or that you young people that are going to go out in the world after you graduate and have not yet begun the process of giving back, might be a lot quicker than myself to arrive at this conclusion and call Tim O'Keefe or Dan Muse or Deanna at your earliest convenience. They are truly fine people, and I am enjoying knowing them and working with them. I have a lot of people to thank for my journey. Brother Gary and Betty and my extended family here in Grand Forks, thank you for holding down the fort for the last 50 years here in Grand Forks. My brother Dean, a historic brother partnership for more than 30 years. Truly historic. Without you, my career in Florida simply would not exist. I thank you, Brother Dean. Useppa and Palm Island and our business in Southwest Florida is due to your wonderful contributions to me. The fourth brother, Tim Fitzsimmons, the guy you really want in your foxhole with you. Thank you, Tim, for 30, 35 years. My Uncle Archie and Jean, thank you for always being there in Emerson, Manitoba, for my mother and father and for us. RP, Richard Powell and Barbara. Richard, what better friend could a person have? You've taught me a lot about friendship, and I appreciate that. Wayne Stinson, the funniest University of North Dakota graduate in the last 50 years. He lives in Stonewall, Manitoba, and it's nice to have you here, Wayne. All my other friends from Emerson that are here tonight. The Thompson family, Dr. Geoffrey Garfield Thompson. How thrilled I was 40 years or so ago, Geoffrey, when I learned that you had been named after me. I was truly thrilled, and I still am today, to know you. Brother Robert, and let's spend a moment remembering our absent friend Dennis tonight. Now the most important person in my life, the love of my life, my friend, my partner in all things, the mother of our two wonderful children, Mika and Donald, and grandmother to two super grandchildren, Barron and Garfield. Sanaya, a big city girl from Tokyo, who had the courage to fall in love with a small town boy from Emerson, Manitoba, move with me to Stockholm, never once suspecting she would end up permanently on a historic and derelict island in the Gulf of Mexico. She is awesome. She meets all the requirements of the Sioux Award and then some. Sanai and I both thank you for this wonderful honor, and we are looking forward to many years of working with the university in the future. Thank you.